Josh, welcome to the podcast. How have you been, man? And where have you been today?
Mate, I've actually been all around Sydney. I've been driving since like 8 a.m. just all around, just collecting bits and rubbish for my road car, actually. Yeah. Like I've got a project road car that I have that's nearing completion, which is good, thank God. And I've just been accumulating parts all day for that. So I've driven from Penrith to Kirrawee to here, then back to Bexley, and I'm over it. I'm so close to buying a chopper.
What's the actual road car that you got?
So it's an old Nissan Skyline GTR.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Godzilla from Bathurst of yesteryear. Yep. No inspiration from all that. Like I didn't care that they won Bathurst or anything. That's part and parcel. And I am a Scaife fan. But my old man used to sell cars, and that's what he sold. So growing up as a kid, he always had Supras, Skylines, 180SXs, Silvias, 300ZX, all the cool Japanese shit. Yeah. When I was sort of 5 or 6 years old in the early 2000s, he would have as his company car. So, shit, we're straight into it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's
where the car obsession started from.
That's exactly what the listeners want to hear, though. So hang on, your old man was a car dealer.
He was a dodgy car dealer.
Dodgy car dealer.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Emphasis on dodgy. He worked at sort of Holden and Ford in that sort of VT VX era.
Yeah, right.
Which was sick.
Yeah, right.
So I remember those cars when they were new, showing my age. But and then he went into the import scene, which is before when sort of P-platers weren't allowed to buy turbo cars. They were wrapping themselves around poles in Skylines.
Yeah, that was all over the TV in the 90s and early 2000s.
Was it really?
Yeah, people wrapping around themselves on poles. Like it's still today, but it's like a lot. Yeah. It's a lot less.
Well, every time it rains, value of those cars goes up.
Yeah.
So every time it rains, I just see dollar signs in my eyes, like cars, another 1,000. So, and that's where the obsession started. Like my old man wasn't worried about breaking road rules, particularly with a young child in the car. So it was awesome fun. I didn't know any better, so. It was very cool. And the second I could waste all my money on buying one, wasted all my money and bought
straight to it, like father, like son.
Totally. As much as I don't like to admit it. Yeah.
Not many people know this, but my actual dad, not Jeff, he was actually a car dealer as well. He actually he was actually a car dealer. Yeah, right. He actually did sales for Toyota back in, I think, around Ride. You know, the Ride, the Ride Toyota dealership. He was actually a car dealer.
No way.
And he was obviously never a race car driver, but that's how I got my fascination with cars and whatnot. So we're kind of similar there, I guess.
Same. Well, my old man was a rally driver, so he did a bit of rally in the 80s in the UK.
Yep.
His sort of claim to fame, he beat Colin McRae on a stage.
Yeah, right.
In the 80s. I think Colin might have been like in nappies and a toddler.
Yeah.
And my old man was a full set adult. But but nonetheless, so that's his claim to fame. And so he can drive. He's a good driver. Just every car he got home, it was a race car, basically. Treated it like he sold it.
Yeah, right. So you where'd you grow up? You grew up, I think, obviously I've known you for years. Did you go to school in Epping and grow up in Epping, or?
Yeah, close to. So I lived in Dundas for ages. Yeah. Which is just outside of Carlingford, Epping, that area, Eastwood. I went to school at Epping Boys.
Yep.
And that was pretty much it. There wasn't really anything fancy. I didn't race go-karts until I was quite late. So just fluked my way through as many tests as I could.
Yeah.
Wasn't a great student. I wasn't silly, but I wasn't academic. So.
Were you like me? Because obviously I was similar to you. I didn't get started late in karting till like what your age, like around 12, 13. But were you like drawing cars in the back of your book and whatnot?
Totally.
And just like being like fully focused on the car racing dream?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh, not the car racing dream. I just loved cars. Like I still do. I'm just a massive car nerd. Like I would go out with my nan. She'd pick me up from school.
Yeah.
And I'd see a car and tell her, "Oh, nan, that's a whatever it is." And she, "Oh yeah, how cool's that, loser?" So that was me. Like, I was just a massive car nerd. And I just knew I wanted to go driving at some stage. So, I did. I drew the cars.
Yeah.
I was full fanboy.
Yeah. A lot of people know Josh Buchanan for obviously we'll go later on in the podcast to winning a TCR race at Eastern Creek, your home track. But a lot of people don't know actually about your family background. You just touched on your dad. What about your like, your mum and your cousins, and how'd your parents meet?
They met in the UK.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, they met in England. I think my old man was a mechanic at the time, and I think he fixed my mum's boss's car as a mobile mechanic, and that was pretty much it. So yeah, he would have fudged the bill for the boss and stole the secretary, I think. So yeah, that's how they met. And yeah, we ended up moving out here when I was quite young. And that's how we ended up here.
So you're originally from the UK, your family?
Born there. A lot of my family's over there. My mum's side is out here, but I don't really have. I'm an only child. I don't really have any cousins my age. So, I was quite social. I still am. So I didn't really have a struggle to make friends or anything like that. I wasn't sitting in the corner worried about human interaction.
Worrying about you drawing cars in a book and whatnot.
Oh yeah. The first thing they saw, I'd take them to the scrapbook when they come inside, and if they still want to hang out, we'd be friends. So yeah, no, that was pretty much the upbringing. I actually did martial arts for 10 years, so that was sort of my thing for a long time.
Yeah, okay. So when did you start martial arts?
Oh shit, year 2. So what was that? I was 7, maybe. Yeah. I did that for close to 10 years.
Did you go to PCYC or anything like that? Or was
no. I went to the dude who instructed me was actually one of the judges at the Sydney Olympics.
Yeah,
so that's how Taekwondo, which is what it was, kicked off in Australia. Was the Korean dudes who came out to do that started their own centers, and it just
took off.
Yeah, so I was one of the ones who joined the bandwagon, and it's funny that I bring it up. The martial arts side of thing, the mindset, the whole discipline, all that rubbish, is one of the best, I guess, strengths that I have now in the motor racing scene. Is the determination, self-belief, confidence, all that sort of rubbish that you learn kicking other kids in the head at 7, 8, 9 years old. It transfers very much to other sports. So it's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, okay. So obviously we met years ago at North Shore Kart Club, and karting's changed massively now, which we'll touch on a bit later. But I met you through Jason Varley. How did your friendship come with Jace? Because Jace and I have known each other for about as long as you two have known each other, if not longer with you guys. Yeah. But how did that all come about from your dad being a car racer and whatnot to him helping you at the go-kart track?
So I met JV my first ever go-kart race.
Yep.
So basically I was 13 and I decided I wanted to go-kart racing. We went to Oran Park in, I reckon it was 08, 09, something like that, just as it was going to start to shut down.
Yep. And
I saw all these kids racing. I thought, oh my God, that's incredible. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, love of cars and going quick. I said to Dad, we got to do this. He goes, yeah, cool, no worries. Went to Parramatta Kart Warehouse, the boys who drove for. Saw Ian there. And
Ian Baker. I wonder what he's up to these days.
Yeah, I know. I think that all the time. Ian, Dan, all those boys, they were the guns at the time.
Oh yeah, they were like the club heroes back then.
He was, yeah. He was good. And
Paramount Party Warehouse.
Yeah, I know. Well, I remember going in there and they said, "What number do you want to run?" I said, "Oh, number 1." They go, "You got to win a race to do that, son." Yeah. But anyway,
that sounds like Ian. Yeah, that sounds like Ian.
So I went there when I was 12 or 13, and with all this enthusiasm, going, "Oh my God, I'm going to be a go-kart driver. How good's this? This is the best thing ever."
Yeah.
How much for that go-kart? And they go, "Oh, it's $3,500."
Yeah.
Me and Dad have looked at each other and gone, fucking what?
Yeah. And these are the second-hand ones hanging on the racks.
These are the pieces of shit.
Yeah, these are the pieces of shit ones, yeah.
And we've gone, oh, okay, yeah, cool. And what about, and we're just going down the line of the worst-looking ones.
Yeah, the one that starts to have rust on it.
Totally, oil all over old AX6 and all that. And they got cheaper, but it's like, oh, this one's 2.5, but it's rubbish. You're never going to win a race. So we left there pretty disheartened, and it was probably another 9 months until, I just put it in the back burner. I thought, oh, okay, whatever it is, what it is. But I went to the butterfly farm then, out at Windsor, did a high kart session, and just knew, because they're outdoor, they're quite good for a high kart.
Yeah.
So yeah, did the lawnmowers out there, and
Dave Sultana owns that now, doesn't he? With his guys.
Does he?
Yeah, I think
No
he does.
shit.
Yeah. He was a bit into Aussie racing cars for a bit.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was always Rod for years.
Yeah. Well,
since I was there.
Now I don't. Or you might know because it's on Facebook and whatnot. But I think North Shore Kart Club has changed it to like Greater Western or
I thought they were Wollongong Kart Club. Are they?
Wollongong Kart Club's gone to. This is from what I know. Wollongong Kart Club's gone to Eastern Creek, and North Shore Kart Club's gone to what you said, Butterfly Farm. It's just all changed.
It's just, it's an absolute shambles, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't follow. I was so passionate about karting when I was doing it. I don't follow. It's too hard to follow.
Yeah.
I don't like. There's 4, 5 governing bodies.
Yeah.
They've got different rules. It's like, with the greatest respect, just sort your shit. But anyway, so I went to Butterfly Farm.
Yeah, you went to Butterfly Farm.
Yeah. I decided I needed to do it. So I basically started working for my uncle on weekends, who loved a bit of child slave labor in the form of me. And I did that for, close to 2 years.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much every weekend I had free.
Yeah, okay.
I would work for Matt, my uncle, and that's basically how I scraped and borrowed enough to buy my first go-kart at Paramount Kart Warehouse about 2 years later. So
was that a J or a Clubman?
Yeah. So
was it a J or a Club?
It was a J.
It was a J, okay,
it was a J on a Monaco GP5 chassis.
Yeah, right.
Which was an AX9. So.
Yeah.
But
just
I remember it well. Yeah, totally. I remember it so well. It was the best. It was the best day in the world getting it. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So.
Where'd you get your gear from? All from Paramount Kart Warehouse?
All from Paramount Kart Warehouse, except the helmet. Because again, you want an Arai? That's... $500. It's like, what do you mean $500? So I had an RJ's with a clear visor, full Gumby spec.
Did you have the neck brace too?
No, never wore a neck brace.
Never went for a neck brace.
No.
Well, you went higher than me because I had to wear a neck brace.
Did you?
When I first started.
No. Yeah.
Bart was there for my first race. Actually, not many people know that. But
I've seen the photo of that. He had the frosted tips. Came back from UF3.
Yeah, the Justin
whatever.
Timberlake look.
Yeah, but back to your point. That's where I met JV. My first ever go-kart race.
Yeah. Okay. So,
yeah,
right.
Crazy.
Yeah, cool. And then you and JV obviously hit it off. And were you living around the same areas, or did you just hang out at his place like mates did back, or still do now?
Oh God, no. So I had to. So because I started late, the first I sort of did that first race. He said basically any help you want, let me know, because I did quite well, and we sort of chatted a bit. I was only young. He's a fair bit older than me. And then my second year, I was old enough to have a motorbike. Yep. So instead of having my L's in a car, I had a motorbike license. So I would ride from Dundas to Silverdale, which is the back of Penrith, basically. Pretty much every weekend. Yeah. On a motorbike on my L's.
To hang out at JV's.
To hang out and play with go-karts. So we did that for
many
5 years. Yeah. Pretty much every weekend. And that's where it all began for me. You had you've posted on social media sometimes, which some racing fans don't know how much like a certain thing means to a race car driver, but for you, which I remember racing it, was the Arrow Clubman go-kart. And that's when you were in 360s in the wet and videos and stuff. All that rubbish.
You know what I mean? But what was your relationship with that kart, and what did you win, and what made you go, out of this go-kart I can make a career out of car driving? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I never thought, even now I don't, in the position I'm in, I know I'm very lucky, but even back then, I never had the idea of be a V8 supercar driver, be a race car driver, race a car. That was never in the equation, because I came from so little, and literally to this day I've never owned a set of wet weather wheels or anything like that. So that was never in the equation. It was just go and have fun. And for me, fun wasn't just winning a race. It was, going out, doing a massive skid in practice, doing it in the race, or, just expressing yourself in the go-kart. And that's why me and JV got along, because he was just the king of, doing cool. Like, he had the best style in a kart, and I wanted to do that. So when I got in the Arrow, it was 10 years old. It had been snapped in half twice. Yeah. Welded by JV's brother Paul. Yeah. They welded it. It was snapped like if you know go-karts, you got the steering column,
Yeah.
and then that bar that it connects to,
Yeah.
basically to the stub axle, the C frame.
Yeah.
It had snapped there. So like a fairly structurally integral part. I remember seeing Paul weld this thing one day, like that, and then tack it and look, oh, it's in the wrong spot, broke it.
Yeah.
Tack it again. And then they said, oh, this is going to be your kart. I'm like, fucking kidding? Like this thing.
This thing's broken.
And we took it out to Eastern Creek and it was just a jet.
Yeah, right.
Dude, the thing was a rocket. And I just fell in love. Like it needed to be driven the way I liked driving.
Yeah.
And then, I polled 3 state titles in a row. I never actually won the big one in that respect, but I was always super fast in it. Won races in the rain by country miles.
Yeah, you're always good in the wet, but I think that having JV there, because JV doesn't get enough, like, obviously, you know, national respect for what he's done as a junior development like coach in a way. But he taught you and many other drivers how to drive in the wet. Yeah. And that was a key integration of his driving style.
He was the best. Yeah. I mean, in the rain, like there was no one who would touch him. Yeah. I saw him. I remember we were at Lithgow once for a state title and he went out in practice and he got behind Adam Hunter, who ended up winning a world championship. Yeah. Just passed him and drove off. Yeah. Like put a length of straight on him in a couple of laps and then caught up with one of the Victorian boys who was meant to be one of the good guys. Lee Nicolau.
Do you remember that the good old New South Wales versus Victoria state interstate battles?
But yeah, like just rinse them. So yeah, he just basically told me what he used to do, and I didn't really need much to figure something out. So he just told me what he did. I went out and did it, and it worked. So it was the best. I love that kart because it really took me from Josh is good, he's won a few things, to shit, he can drive. So it was very cool. And I've just got that kart back and I've just sort of restored it. Yeah, right. Was
that in JV's place, was it, or was it in JV's?
It's at my place now.
Yep.
So I'll be taking that out soon, probably being 5 or 6 seconds a lap slower than like a Cadet 9.
It's all right. You can join Bart 9 on a practice day somewhere.
Yeah. I can. I look forward to it.
Yeah. So you and JV have had a close relationship. Yep. I want to know how you met your girlfriend, because your girlfriend's very supportive of you. Yeah. And she's been there for your first win. So how did like in TCR race, but how did you two meet? Did you meet like the typical teenage thing?
Super funny story. So it's very ironic that we were just talking about JV. So JV started put in perspective, JV's 15 years older than me, right? Yeah. First and foremost. So he started going out with this this chick, this woman.
Yeah. I think I remember who. Yeah. It wasn't Penn, was it? It was Penn.
Yeah,
it was Penn. Okay, cool.
So he started going out with Penny.
Yep.
And Lauren, my girlfriend, is Penny's daughter.
Yeah, right.
Swear to God, ridiculous. So that's how we met.
Okay.
But funnily enough, we live like very separate lives for how close we sort of were. You all of a sudden have a girlfriend who wants to play with you on the weekends and go and do things. You can't go and dick around with go-karts with your mate. And that's when I started racing cars anyway. So we ended up not spending as much time with one another just by chance. But yeah, that's how we met, and we're together now. Yeah. So.
Do you actually hang out with many? I don't, but do you? And I've seen from back in the day. Do you hang out with Bryce Davison and Pierce Lehane and that still party, or did you party back then for a while? Yeah. Do you remember your party days? Because for me, I don't remember much. I mean, I did a nightclub promotion.
I remember.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
You got me into Marquee one night. I remember.
Exactly right. That's why I'm bringing it up. But do you remember your times partying with the go-kart boys? Because they were just loose days back then.
Yeah, they were the best. I mean, the good thing is that I got all my silly stuff done away from when my motor racing career kicked off, so I don't feel the need to go out and do
dumb shit.
That's right. I've done that away from the limelight, I guess. So I had a good group of mates in karts. Pierce, we went out quite a few times. We were good mates. Jamie Rush, when he first came out to Australia, we took him out a few times. There's a few establishments.
Took him to another planet?
Yeah, well, he took himself there, but there's probably still a few places that won't let him back. Bryce a few times. They lived in further areas away from me, so that was always a bit tough. They were like Rouse Hill area, but a few other boys as well. But honestly, mostly through sort of 17, 18, 19, 20, I was with JV. So we'd go to the casino.
I do remember those days because that's where I was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. We were on the tables and you were on the decks.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we did. I had a few good mates, Sean and Nick Lichtenberger.
Yeah. Those guys, Sean's not. What's Sean Tidyman doing these days? He's going, I kind of see him around Lachlan and Eve. He's kind of playing like the driver manager role, isn't he?
If the Dirt's listed, that's his name as well. Yeah. If the Dirt's listening, he would be the first one to admit he doesn't have a real job.
Yeah.
Like, he has a 9 to 5, but he's the ultimate floater. He just rocks up to places and you're like, what are you doing here? You're working on a Porsche Cup car. Now you're on Formula Ford. Now what are you doing at this after party?
He's a car salesman.
He is a total car salesman. And he lives in Bondi at the moment and he fits that scene perfectly. So whereas Nick is living in Newcastle, earning a fortune, being on call for the railway. So
he's dating a former karter as well, isn't he?
He is. He's going out with
Brianna.
That's right. So he kept it in the family.
Yeah. Out of all the go-kart tracks you raced at, for me, I was just a one-track wonder. It was Eastern Creek for me.
Yeah.
Yep. Eastern Creek. Yeah. What was your favourite go-kart track?
I went and did the state titles in Tasmania last year of Clubman. And that was amazing. The Hobart was the track, about half hour outside of Hobart. And it was almost like a NASCAR track where it was sort of one straight, then another, on the side of a mountain with 2 hairpins and then some chicanes in the middle. But it was just so much elevation and undulation. It was incredible. So probably that as a go-kart track.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I did a lot around Lithgow, but, I wouldn't call that my favourite.
Yeah.
But...
Did you ever travel to South Australia or anything like that or not?
No, I did because I had no money, man. I travelled basically nowhere.
Did you ever go to JV's? Because he did race KF1 for like that brief period. Did you actually ever go on that kart at all?
No, well, that was before my time. I raced KZ in my last year of karts, but never really. I was a historian of the sport, so I knew everyone who did everything. So I was very aware of what had happened and who did what, who won at what year, but I was never around for any of it.
Who started that KZ series that you won? Matthew?
His last name. God, he's going to kill me.
He's going to kill us both. He's on both our social media channels.
I know.
But Matt
Nippris.
That's it. Matt Nippris. That's it. He rides bikes for fun now, like, on track days. He rides bikes. Did you know that?
Yeah. That screws loose. I don't think I'm not a brave person. So seeing boys who run motorbikes around circuits, just hats off. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. What did you think of like the KZ thing? Because the KZ thing did take off in 2014, and literally every man and his dog got a KZ card at one point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was kind of the first drive I got in terms of it wasn't my stuff I was using.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. So the rules changed in 2014, end of 14 for 2015 in karts. New engines were coming in. They were $3,000 a piece.
Yeah.
New tires. So the old 3032 was going to be useless.
Yeah. What did you think of that? Because that's when I was leaving too. Did you just get confused?
It was. Yeah. It was frustrating for me because I didn't have any money to buy the new stuff. So I was looking at it from a point of view. Oh, they're getting rid of me. I've got nothing to do. So I wasn't against it because I knew that it needed change. But personally, selfishly, I was, I wasn't looking forward to it at all. And Clubman was the best racing. So for me, you were getting rid of the best racing, the best old school drivers, and, the most affordable too. So, it was controversial, but you look in hindsight, I think it needed to be done.
Yeah.
Probably the way it went down wasn't the greatest.
Yeah, it was a bit too abrupt, wasn't it?
Yeah, and just there was a lot of controversy, but there's so many wheels and Chinese whispers. Like you hear a story of, have you heard how this happened? And then someone else says, you hear how that happened? And
Typical karting scene.
Typical Billy Carts. Yeah.
We were talking about, obviously, off air about Brian Farley Memorial.
Yeah.
How many races of the Brian Farley Memorial did you do?
I did 13, 14, and 15.
Yep.
So, and they were the best, man. Like Repicharge, 55 karts.
Clubman Pro it was the shit. It was the shit back then.
Brian Farley was the biggest race of the year. Like the Nationals was good, but everyone wanted to win the Farley.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was the best.
It was like our annual classic in a way, like
totally.
for go-karts.
Yeah, it was. It was the $1 million race.
Yeah, the who's won that race.
Yeah. I mean, like, who won it? I think Tyler Greenberry won it.
Yeah.
Did he?
Macaulay Jones won it.
Jones won it.
There was heaps. Daniel Baker, we were talking about Paramount Kart Warehouse.
Dan Baker won it. Yeah, there was some like proper, like JH. Joe Mawson won, didn't he?
Yeah, Joey won. Joey actually won. I had him on the podcast before, which you've heard. Yeah, he actually came from the back of the field and passed the whole field in the wet and won.
Yeah. I remember that.
That's how he got talent spotted by my stepdad.
Was it really?
Yeah, that's how he got talent spotted.
You joking?
No, that was the one that got him talent spotted.
Wow. That was the year I was watching that year. That was the first year the year before I started. So started racing Clubman Pro anyway. But yeah, it was the best. Like, it was so good. I mean, the guys in that field, you know, go-karters today wouldn't know any of them.
Yeah.
But you look at the list and you don't just look at the name, you look at, if you know the story, you see who they've raced.
Yeah.
And where they raced and what they raced. And it was just, it was elite. I'm so thankful that I was around then.
Yeah.
To be offloaded and smashed by those guys.
Yeah.
So that I can take those lessons learnt and apply them today, because it just doesn't happen anymore.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I'm pretty sure these days they would probably still have characters around the pits, but do you remember one character, Peter Galvin, my old mechanic?
Yeah, I didn't have much to do with Galvo, but I remember you would always pump his tyres up and talk rubbish about him. And I wasn't cool enough for Galvo to look at me, but I remember the Cosmic Racing team when you, Matty Waters, who else was in there?
That was the cool kids. That was the
you guys were lit.
Matt Boylan was there.
Yeah, your Cosmic Factory suits.
We're all in purple and blue.
Totally. Like, these dudes getting paid to be here. Like, it was, fooled us.
Yeah, so. And you'd smoke most of us. You'd smoke me.
It was a good time. It was a very good time.
Yep. So how did obviously from your karting career, you I think was your next step into Formula Ford out of go-karts?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So after I got the driving KZ through Greg Stanley.
Yep.
He approached me at a Speedway event at Para when we all used to go to
Speedway. I was going to ask you to bring that up.
So I was on the UDLs that night.
Yep.
Raspberry UDLs, and I saw Greg. He just started importing TB kart with his son over in WA. They ran Jake Claridge.
Yeah.
Jake went to GT3 Cup Challenge in Porsches, and Greg basically said, "What are you doing this year?" Because it was like January. I said, "Oh, nothing. I got no engine." And he gave me a kart, gave me an engine, traveled around and did the KZ series. And then, from that, I met Mark Lowing.
Yep.
From through JV.
Yep.
And he said that you should go and ring this guy named Paul.
Mm-hmm.
He owns a heap of Formula Fords, builds them. They're looking for a driver. And I just thought, bullshit. No one looks for drivers in cars.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't
Paul
happen.
is a racer's racer. Like he doesn't care about like the flamboyance of a race team.
No.
He is literally like the proper Formula Ford racer. If you were to put Formula Ford back in its day, he was it.
Well, he's in the 70s time warp. He hasn't left.
Yeah.
So
that's what makes him so great though. But that's what he's the only one essentially outside of Mike Borland that's produced their own car in Australia, really, in Formula Ford.
Yeah. Well, he produced his first Formula Ford in 1986.
Yeah.
So he's been making cars for close to 30 years. I met him through Mark and did a test with him at Wakefield, which was free. And I thought, oh my God, like,
this is ridiculous.
This is the best thing ever. And then he called me into his office. I was doing a bit of driver coaching at the time as well.
For him, weren't you?
No. For cars.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Top scam. I was racing go-karts and telling dudes how to drive their cars. So
you got to tell me about how that after this Paul story.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of like swindling, but
that's how you got to go in the racing industry, though. You got to go up the ladder.
You make it.
Exactly right.
So Paul called me into his office and said, we can't pay you to drive the car, and my ears have just perked up. Like, what do you mean you can't pay me? he goes, but we want you to test the car through the year. We're building a new car, which is still being built.
Yeah. Well, it's only like really him and Joe the whole time in the.
And that's how Formula Ford started. So they tested me. I just drove the car on test days for about 9 months before doing my first race. So
yeah, right.
That was the start.
We'll go back to the Formula Ford later, but how did the driver training come about? Like, obviously, you're coming out of go-karts and you're wanting to make a career in cars, and you've obviously gone with Paul and stuff, but did JV help you with the with the thing? Yeah.
Yep. Again, so basically every first start I got was through him. So he was obviously a lot older than me, so he had a lot more connections and, could see that what I was doing was right for that industry. So he put me in touch with a few guys, and so they just fell into place. The first ever gig I did was at World Time Attack as a volunteer. I worked for a guy named Renato, who's a great friend of mine now, and I work for.
I'm gonna get Ian Baker on the pod soon.
Ian Baker, God. So
So back to Renato. Yep.
So so Ian Baker's World Time Attack. So I was putting cameras on cars, GoPros for free. I worked 2 16-hour days, thinking this is shit.
Yeah.
Why did I do this?
Yeah.
But there was a 767B. There was a heap of cool cars, and that was the first gig I did. From there, High Tech Oils Drifting started, and I was just working on the event as a gopher.
Yep.
And then a friend of mine...
We've all got to start somewhere.
All got to start somewhere, dude.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine now, wasn't friends then, but Ben Porter.
Yep.
Of Lamborghini Asia GT factory fame.
Yeah. He was also a gun Formula V driver.
He was
Formula
seven times.
V driver back in the day.
7 times, yep.
Yeah.
So he asked, do you want to do a job at a place called The Farm, driver coaching? And
I've heard about that place.
You've never been?
Never been.
Okay.
You can tell me about it.
Yeah. It's good. Very good track. But so he said, do you want to do a day at the farm? I said, sure thing. That was paid. I got paid money for it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And it was for Hyundai.
Yeah, right.
And that's where that started.
And that's how the whole Hyundai thing started.
Yeah. It's a wormhole, isn't it? It's just total snowball. So that's how the driver coaching started. And that was also the Hyundai relationship too.
Yeah, cool. So how'd you find working with Hyundai, being like a fresh go-karter, essentially working with Formula Ford?
It was a trip.
Yeah.
Total trip. It was Veloster Turbo was the car.
Yeah.
And looking back, I thought it was the biggest event of all time.
Yeah.
Doing it now, more or less every other day, it's like, it's just another track day, whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a big deal. So, and it was a journo day. So there were journalists there like Andrew McLean, who does the media now for Hyundai. There was Paul Gover, who's, obviously big wig and been around forever. And I was in the passenger seat with them. Yeah. Coaching them around
as a go-karter, essentially. Yeah. As a go-karter / open wheel driver.
Pretty much.
But you proved it later on, so that's the main thing.
Yeah. But all through that time, I never had any intention of being a race car driver. I was just happy to
be around cars.
Yeah,
because that's what you like.
That's what I liked. Yeah.
You loved cars.
Yeah, I never drew a Veloster Turbo in a book. Or anything like that. But for me that was an F1 car at the time.
Yeah. What did you think of? Obviously for me, my thing apart from V8 Supercars was Parramatta Speedway.
Yeah.
When did you start going to Parramatta Speedway as a kid? Do you remember your first time going there?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I wasn't a kid. It was in my teens. So it was when I met the go-kart crew.
Yep.
So, that sort of group of friends who I had through karting, we went to the Speedway, and I did the classic Speedway first time deal. Like I wore a decent shirt, decent pants. Like I didn't know.
Yeah. You didn't know it was full of dust.
And I'm sitting at turn 1/2.
Yeah.
I just got smacked in the gut by something.
Yeah.
And I thought someone threw something at me. So like I'm not an aggressive person. I'm like, oh my God, someone's trying to belt me. Like, do I look so out of place? It was Clay from Sprint Car smashed me. So that was my first time. Yeah, I would have been 16 or something.
What year was that? 2010?
No,
2011.
12, 13.
12, okay.
Yeah, super late.
Did you have any favourite sprint car drivers? Or do you remember anyone that stood out?
I remember the dude who was cleaning up when I first went was James McFadden.
Yeah, right.
So he was destroying everyone. And then I remember when the Americans would come out, like Brad Sweet.
Yeah. Casey Kane came out at one stage. Tony
did.
Stewart, or did you miss Tony Stewart?
No, I don't think I saw Tony, but I remember watching, because I love driving technique, doesn't matter what it is. I remember watching the really good Aussie guys like
Jamie Veal.
Yeah, Jamie Veal as well. He was another one smashing it.
Yeah, Max Johnson,
Maxi J, Sammy Walsh, like the good Aussie guys.
Yeah.
And then you see the US dudes come out, and they're just a lap ahead of everyone. Like if the line's the top, they know it, and then if the line's the bottom, they know it. They're just a lap ahead, and they're not so much faster. They just know it.
Yeah,
and it was so cool to see.
I've heard from Aussie drivers, from Aussie sprinkler drivers, as you said, they think they were going to the top, but the Americans literally go over the top and still pass them all. Which is crazy. I think it's nuts.
It's very impressive to see, and particularly how fast they are. I mean, you don't get. I remember seeing a car wheel stand on the dirt, and I just lost my mind. I thought that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and then go out the back and they're running 6 psi or whatever it is in the tires, and it just goes against everything that you think you know. And I knew nothing at the time.
They're all lunatics though, like, you know, all the Dumsney kids and stuff like that out west. They love to do wheel stands in their own farms and do donuts and
I don't think you're
got
allowed to
viral
talk
videos.
about what they actually do, but yeah, they're lunatics.
Yeah.
Absolute lunatics. But you have to be
to drive one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how did you find it doing your Speedway stint? Was it pretty loose?
That's right, my legend car stint.
Yeah, your legend car stint.
Yeah, I found it fun. Like, it's funny you bring that up. Yeah, I loved it. Like, I liked it.
Okay.
But in terms of us going from tar to dirt, it was just totally different.
Chalk and cheese,
I was thinking like, oh, this is going to be so easy because it's literally just a bowl. And I'm just going to be driving around in circles. And everyone's like, holy, you're going to find this ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
Sure enough, I did. I had one good race where I actually got up to 5th from last, and then my engine died or my battery died. And that was pretty much the end of my legend car career.
Yeah, okay.
I had heaps of fun, though. It was heaps of fun.
It does look like fun. It's way more relaxed once it's all said and done than like tarmac racing. So.
Yeah. So back to your Liz Tech days. You've worked with Paul. You've actually helped him build this car that he's still building, the Duratec.
Yeah.
How did obviously that all come about? Where you've actually been summoned into his office. Is his office a bit like Dave Moore's, where it's just full of books and all that type of thing?
It is actually
crazy notes and stuff like that.
100%. Yeah, I've never been to Dave's joint, but that's exactly what it looks like.
We should swap bosses.
We should.
You go to Dave Moore's office. I'll go to Paul's.
Yeah. I mean, Paul's shop is just like, I mean, it's just cool because it is. It's they're old school.
Yeah.
Joe's a world class, fabricator. Paul's super intelligent.
Yeah.
And they just chip away and build cars, and they love it.
Yeah.
And that's how we worked so well. Is that they were no bullshit. I just got in and drove the thing hard. I didn't make mistakes. I told them if something was good or bad. They loved it.
Yeah.
And we got along. I still drive their cars now.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, you drove at supercars, didn't you?
I did. I had a shunt.
You were going pretty well though.
I was, yeah.
You were up there.
Yeah, I qualified third.
Yeah.
And I gave old mate in second to tow. So I would have qualified second, but I mean, at that level, their Duratec car is. I can get it going fast in qualifying. I can't hold on to the Miguels and the Spectrums in the races, but we can get close enough to crash into the quick blokes.
Yeah. But you've done well. So you did Kent 1600 first.
Yep.
How did you find driving the 1600 as opposed to the Duratecs?
Well, the two cars, the Duratec and the Kent car of Paul's, are identical cars. They're just different engines and uprights, but the cars feel totally different. So Paul's Kent car is easily to this day still the best race car I've ever driven.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Out of the two, you reckon the Kent car's
miles better? I don't know why, and they don't know why.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit like the old Clubman kart.
Yeah.
Where I just got in it and I just I could talk to it. Like there was nothing I couldn't do.
It just suited your driving style.
Totally.
It was a bit loose. Yeah,
totally.
Right.
There was nothing I couldn't do in that car, and the reason I raced that first rather than the Duratec is because they had a driver paying to drive the Duratec. And they just wanted me to get some races and win some stuff to see if I could do it.
That's how race teams work, though. You have the paid driver, and then you have some race teams do this.
Yeah, that's right. So that's effectively how I got my start in the Kent. And then, we went on and won a bunch of races. It was like 19 from 21 starts in Kent. And, the competition might not have been there.
Oh, there was competition.
There was competition.
The Anglo car is quick.
The Anglo cars, they are very fast. But I knew I was driving that Kent car as quick as it could go. There was no there was not a man born from his mother who could drive that car quicker than what I was.
Yeah.
And I knew it. And I just needed some stage to show it.
Yeah.
Because we were breaking lap records everywhere we went.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, winning races by miles. Yeah. But I
hated racing back then. I get my ass kicked.
But, it wasn't until we went to Bathurst for the 12-hour Formula Ford race that we finally got that competition and we still won the event.
Yeah,
the car was just so good. I mean, I still love driving that car. One day I'm going to have a shed, going to have the go-kart, I'm going to have that car.
Yeah, you're going to collect cars smaller to Alonso's. Or like,
that's right.
You're going to have a small shed full of your stuff.
I don't think I'll have a TCR car, but I definitely one day will own that car.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. You were. I remember when we were there racing at that event. You were talking to Paul Morris. Have you had a good relationship with him, or was that just like a casual banter thing? At the time?
It was more just a casual banter. I remember going into the race. Our good friend Lockie Mansell of Beauty and the Geek fame, he was doing the media for it before he was well known.
Yeah.
And I remember reading the article because, again, I was a nobody, so I wanted to see my name in a magazine.
Yeah.
So I was reading it, looking for my name, and he's basically said Paul Morris and Jano Jada are the favourites.
And you're like, get fucked.
That was all I needed, like full Michael Jordan, right? That pissed me off. Like I was like, I'm the favourite. Like I'm gonna go and win this thing.
I'm the fastest.
Yeah, and I'd never been to Bathurst. So the first thing I remember doing in practice, everyone was talking Paul Morris, this, that.
Yeah.
And he was racing Aussie car at the time, just destroying people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everyone who knows Paul, like
he loves Bathurst.
Well, he loves Bathurst and he loves a shunt. Like he doesn't mind getting the elbows out, which from my karting background, love it. Like I'm all about that. So I was really excited, but the rhetoric around the track was like, oh, Paul's racing, don't get in his way. He's going to run you off the road, all this.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did in practice was go out behind Paul and try and like...
give him a shunt.
Not give him a shunt, just see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I remember he pointed me past going up Mountain Straight, the second lap. Oh, okay, no problem. Cruised around and came in. I'm like, oh, how'd we go? And they said, oh, you're quickest. I'm like, oh, shit, okay. Like 55 cars and I was the quickest.
Yeah. Where's my name in Speed Cafe now?
Yeah, that's right. And then, so Paul afterwards sort of just, oh, hey, mate, how you going? Like, yeah, good. You going all right? It's just general stuff. Like I see Paul every now and then and we say hi and all the rest of it. He follows me on Instagram, so, he's a big fan. But
Paul, to this day, I've said it in John's podcast, Paul Morris, he still doesn't accept my friend requests on Facebook.
Oh, he's got Facebook, has he?
He's got Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Paul Morris, he's got Facebook, and he's not interested in Hooli.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Not India?
Not India. He fancies a lot of other race car drivers in the industry, but just not me. So, eventually maybe I'll get him on the podcast.
That could be your, like, sort of thing. You could say,
that could be my
welcome to the
flirtation,
podcast, add me.
Slide him a DM. Do you want to come on my podcast, Paul Morris?
That's right. All you got to do is add me.
Yeah. So, you've obviously, you dominated in the Listec, in the Kent car. You went to the Duratec. You did a few races in that before Formula 3.
Yep.
How did you find going from the Formula 4 Duratec to the Formula 3 car?
Dude, like the F3 car was the most brutal thing I've ever driven. It was like KZ, but one-handed for longer corners, stiffer. Your neck would just rip off.
Yeah.
You'd have a blister on your hand for a week after every time you drove the car from bashing down from 6th to 2nd.
Yeah.
Because we obviously run slightly older cars out here, so they're still sequential shift with a shift cut. I honestly thought it would be like foolish of me to think that they'd be closer than what they are. They're just worlds apart. They're totally unrelatable in every single way.
Yeah. So you couldn't relate the two when you went from one to the other?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Totally different cars.
I remember you telling me ages ago too, your neck gets worn the fuck out.
Oh man. Like first test I did at Morgan Park, I think I did 7 or 8 laps and I was cooked. And I've just gone, oh my God, like what have I done? And the trouble was because we had like no budget, I couldn't test through the year. So the only testing I got was Friday practice.
Yeah.
And the races were long, like fairly time split up. So you'd have one race in March, the next one was May, and then July, and then September. Yeah. So if I did 2 races in a month, the second race, I'd feel okay.
Yeah.
But I remember going to Tailem Bend after having like 3 months off. Just, man, like I always did my best work in Friday practice, and then I just cooked for the race. It
wasn't like my racing career.
Yeah, oh man. But yeah, it wasn't until we got to Wakefield where I got on pole the second to last round, and then Queensland Raceway a few weeks later that I really felt like I was driving the car. Yeah. And it was good. That's so rewarding when you drive them fast. It was
your rivals with John Magro.
Johnny Magro, yeah. He cleaned up. I was never a shout for him. I could hold him and occasionally get in front of him, but I wasn't on the fitness level to drive the cars.
How did that deal come about with you though, with Errol Gilmore, who's passed away, and that whole situation? Because obviously they were out without a driver, weren't they? And then you just randomly got pulled in or something.
Yeah, so John Collins, who won the series for them in 15, I think it was. Yep. I went to his wedding in Newport, and Errol Gilmore was there because they were really close. Yeah. And I went up to Errol. I said, "Hi, my name's Josh, and I'm going to drive your cars."
Yeah, the Lewis Hamilton way.
Yeah, not quite, but yeah. And he's gone, "Oh, okay," and sort of spoke a little bit, and he gave me his card. I called him a few weeks later. He said, "Yeah, come and do a test." And that was pretty much it. That was that Morgan Park test, and it went from there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was just another one of those
random situations that you got yourself into.
Yeah, and I only knew John through driver training. So yeah. So it's all just small little cogs coming together to produce stuff like this.
Can you explain this to me about Burrows days and like the whole like driver training thing? Because obviously I've never been involved in it, but I've always wanted to get involved in it. But from people outside listening to this, what gets involved in driver training and how do you go about it to become one?
Yeah, so I get asked this all the time, and it's not something where you just ring up, "Hey, I do XYZ. I want to come and coach, your dudes in supercars or whatever it might be.
Karting champion. Can I be a driver coach?"
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I had a lot of trouble starting off because I was only racing karts. So it was like, why is this dude here? And, all the rest of it. It's more just how you communicate and how you talk to people. And if you can put your ideas across on how to drive a car better, then you do your job. So I was good at that because I've always liked the technique of driving cars. So I could explain that. And that's how it basically came across. And it's all word of mouth. Like I don't have a CV. I don't have a resume here. Can I work on this day? Yeah. It's all just you get a random call on your phone from a number you don't know and hello, Josh speaking. Do you want to come? Yeah, that's literally how it works.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not as intricate or as complicated as what you might imagine.
Yeah. Did you think before that to get into car racing that you wanted to do like the V8 fast track thing or anything like that to try and get your foot in the door? Or did that ever come to mind for you or not?
Not really, no. Honestly, all it was just an avenue to pay for me going racing. Yeah. All it was. I enjoyed the work. I would see cars that I never thought I'd see. Even to this day, like some of the stuff that I've done or seen or driven still blows my mind. And that was the appeal. That's all it was. Very, very simple. Nothing to it. Yep.
Yeah. So after this, you came second in the Formula 3 Championship. You did a bit of Formula Ford again, but this is where Will Brown got out of the seat in the TCR Series, which was literally just the inaugural season.
Yeah, 2019.
And everyone's doing their driver evaluation day. Who was a part of your evaluation day when you were hopping into Hyundai?
So I didn't do it on the same day as everyone else. So I believe it was...
Yeah, so who were you against?
Matt McLean, Tyler Everingham, Holly Espray, and someone else. I can't quite remember who.
Yeah, okay.
But it was a different day to me. So they tested on like a Friday and I tested on a Monday. And yeah, I just happened to be the quickest out the lot of them.
Right.
For whatever reason, they might have got traffic. Their day was busier than mine. It doesn't matter, but I had support from Hyundai. The brand were quite keen to get me in the car, and I happened to be the fastest. So Barry Morecambe, who owns the team, decided to go with me.
And then that was
very simple. That was pretty much it.
But not many people know that you actually, after your F3 days, you actually nearly got picked up by an S5000 team, didn't you?
Yeah,
I did.
got
scouted to go into S5000 into its inaugural season.
That's right. Yeah, I had an offer to race at the Grand Prix for 2020, which was the apocalypse.
Yep. You would have raced my driver coach, Bart, then.
I would have. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, there was a dude looking for guys to race his S5000. And he called me 3 weeks before the event.
Yeah.
Like I'd gone to his office in Melbourne and spoke with him, and so they said, okay, like, you've got a car. Have you got someone to run it? Have you got this, got that? Because I mean, without sounding arrogant, I just came off the back of F3. I ended up driving the car quite quickly.
Yep.
You know, I'd won at Bathurst. I'd done some cool stuff. I
Your resume's built up at this point.
A little bit more
Yep.
built up than what it had been in the past. I had enough work in driver coaching. I was doing it full time. So I wasn't going to sell myself short. Like, I wasn't going to do something for the sake of it. Whereas if it was 18 months earlier, S5000 now, questions later. But it was all coming together last minute for the team. And so he asked me to do the event, and I actually turned it down just because, you know, are we going to get a test date? Probably not. And I had an opportunity to work at the Grand Prix with Jaguar, which was worth, you know, a lot of money. So for me, it's like, all right, do I go and earn some money, be at the Grand Prix, have a good time, or do I maybe race, maybe in a car that might be ready, that might have someone to run it.
That might do 3 laps and then car.
Well, yeah, that's it. So looking back, it didn't really.
Is that team still around or not?
Yeah, they are. They're running really well. They've won a race now, so they're doing a really good job. So if I stuck with it, I might have had an opportunity, but I wouldn't change a thing.
What do you think about, obviously you're now in TCR, which we can end the whole podcast with, but what do you think about the whole ARG series now? Because you're well involved in it now. You know how the whole thing works.
Yep.
For me now, it used to be looking up at the start of the year was the Adelaide 500. Now I actually look for the Race of Tasmania, which you're going to. What do you think of the whole S5000 thing now? Like, do you think it's the drivers that they're bringing in is creating a better category and an open wheel pathway for Formula 4 drivers and whatnot? Or
yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember watching the first race of 5000 that I saw in Tassie, being there in TCR. And I did. I was very envious of the guys out there. The cars move around. Like Joey said when he was here, they move around. You got to hustle them.
They're old. They're like old school and 80s, which is what the fans love.
Yeah. And I was watching going, how cool is this? The racing obviously isn't what touring car racing is. It's not bash and smash and, you know, all the rest of it. But the category, seeing the cars, it's super cool. So I'd love to still drive one. And, you know, if the opportunity comes up, I'll jump at it. But I think it's great. You know, the more opportunity young guys have now, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. How's Barry and Nathan as a boss?
Oh, great.
Are they great?
Barry's awesome. Nathan's not so much the boss. He
Does he portray that on social?
No. He's cool. He's all right.
He's a legend. I've known him. Like, we've known him for years.
You would have known him for a long time.
I've got a history with him too. I'd love to bring him on, by the way, if you can get him on.
Yeah, I'll speak to Morco.
Yeah.
But
hopefully he listens to this podcast.
Well, if I'm on it, he won't.
Yeah.
But he's a great teammate. He's super relaxed.
Yeah.
You know, he's very good in the cars. He's got a massive background in all sorts of different cars that not many people know about as well. So he's a good teammate to have and benchmark yourself off.
Yeah.
And he got quite unlucky in the first year of TCR as well. Like Will obviously cleaned up, but Nathan was very quick. He just always was on the wrong side of something.
Yeah.
But in terms of Barry, he's amazing. Barry is the team owner that every team needs.
Yeah. He's a big gentle giant, that bloke.
He's a legend.
Everyone's got so much respect for him in the paddock. What I think is nuts is, essentially, for TCR, they are the founding team, which you're in, HMO Customer Racing, that's actually pretty much like helped TCR to get it where it is today.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Barry...
it's a foundation team.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Barry's the only guy who basically went overseas, said, we want to run these cars. Yeah. Okay, no problem. Bought the cars. Job done. Like, set up a team. The workshop is world class.
Yeah. What's in that workshop? Like, how does a day in the life of the HMO Customer Racing? Where is it actually located?
It's in Campbelltown, so it's on Barry's block.
Yeah.
Where he has DPO, his main business. And it's an old skate park building that he rented out. And then when he started the team off, he pissed the skaters off and said, "I'm putting the cars in here." Yeah. So Nathan, from what I believe, sort of refit the whole joint. It's all epoxy floored. There's signage. It's all beautiful and perfect. There's a gym. There's everything. There's a little showroom with, Barry's old sports sedan, an old Porsche Turbo of his.
Is there like trophies and stuff?
There's all the whole deal, mate.
Wicked.
There's the B double that lives in there, and then we've got the 4 hoists with the 4 cars. So,
mate,
right. It's world class. It really is.
Yeah.
It stacks up to any workshop I've ever seen.
Yeah. Does Aaron Grech work there, my old team?
No, he doesn't. He
did work there, didn't
he contracts to us at events. So he's an engineer this year.
Yep.
He's going to be engineering Nathan, I believe.
Yeah, right.
So
not many people know, but he did actually win a Formula Ford championship himself.
Yeah, he's a gun. Yeah. So he was my number 1 mechanic last year.
Yep.
And now he's engineer this year. But yeah, Aaron's a really good dude. He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And he's big part.
Yeah. So who's in the shop now? Like, if you could name everyone in the
So you've got Rob Benson, who's, I guess, kind of team manager, team overseer of sorts. And you've got Erin, who is the truck driver / number 1 mechanic on my car this year.
Yep.
So those 2 guys are full time. So they not 9 to 5. They're more like 7 to 7.
Yeah.
They just love it. Love the tools. Love working on the cars. Super, super intelligent guys. Bob Riley as well, who's got a massive history in motorsport. He comes in and does sort of bits and pieces on gearboxes and anything engineering.
Yeah. So does any of them have a supercar background?
Yeah. So Rob at one point was doing V8 Supercar with HRT when it was Walkinshaw. So he came out here and did the engines for Walkinshaw when they first started in Supercar in 1990. So they won Bathurst that year.
Yep.
So Rob did the engines for them. And he stayed in Supercar doing Wayne Gardner's motors until the mid-90s, until he went to NASCAR, and then spent 10 years doing NASCAR.
Do you remember those Coke Commodores?
I was born when that car was going around.
Okay,
but I've seen the videos of that thing, and it was a jet in a straight line.
Yeah.
Rob tells me the stories of, like, he had like 3 specs higher than everyone else.
Yeah.
He had an exclusive deal, and
the TCR what you're driving these days, Josh, reminds me of supercars back then, because it's just like, it kind of just brings like that old school factor where, you win on Sunday, sell on Monday. The cars that were driving on the road, and those cars were easier to put together back then. Those supercars.
Yeah. They were. I mean, they were at the time. They were obviously very high tech. The engines were worth a shitload, but the theory was the same as what we're doing now. Is that the body that you see going around the track is exactly the same as what we're racing or you're buying. With TCR, it's even closer again, because the actual engine in all the cars that you see on the grid are exactly the same as what's in the road car. Down to the standard rods, pistons. So much componentry is from the road car. And when I take owners and customers and staff, show them the cars, it's pretty amazing to see their faces and go, oh my God, that's an oil filter off like a standard i30N. You go, yeah. And it's like, oh my God, that's the same, so much similarity. So that's the big appeal for I guess the generation.
Has Hyundai actually sold a lot more cars since joining TCR?
I'd love to say they're selling shitloads more, but I don't know.
You don't know?
No. I'm gonna claim every N I see on the road is because of Sydney last year. But there's the brand passion with Hyundai owners, particularly with N's, is unlike any I've seen in any other brand. And obviously, I work with a lot of brands. And the N enthusiasts, as we call them, they're just the most passionate car owners that you'll ever meet. It's unbelievable. And now that they have sort of a car that they can look at and have access to the team that's racing out here, it's amazing. We do a lot together now, and it's only getting bigger. So hopefully it continues into the future.
How did you prepare? Obviously, 2020 was massive for a lot of drivers that I've spoken to, including myself, how I changed teams to Bart and whatnot.
Of course,
But for you, what happened for you in 2020 before leading up to, racing a full season in TCR, like your proper full season?
I mean, man, it just it was a blur. I mean, I found out less than a week before Tassie I was racing. So I did 20 laps at Wakefield and then straight to Tasmania to race. So it just happened so quickly, and I didn't have time to sit back and soak it all in. It was just, this is what we're doing. Let's go and do it. I'll think about it when I'm not doing it in 10, 15, 20 years time, or whenever that is. But at the moment, we got we got shit to do, races to win and people to punt off. You know, I don't have time to think about it. We got a job to do.
Did you think much of the whole sim? Did you do the sim racing thing over the break?
No, I didn't. No. I've got a full Povo Pack sim.
Yeah. I don't even have a sim.
There you go. Yeah, even more Povo Pack than mine. So yeah, I have a very basic sim. I use it more just on Gran Turismo to rip skids.
Yep. Yeah, you're like me, just like the PlayStation and just have a fang on on the controls.
Exactly. I go all right on the simulator when I go to my friend Ollie, formerly at Euros, now Focus Driver.
Driver Performance, yeah.
I can go all right on it, but I'm not a non-believer in the sim, but there is no replacement for going and doing it. So, I won't sit down and burn hours on the sim.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I get anything from that.
Yeah.
Am I right? Don't know. Am I wrong? Maybe. But, I feel like what I do can work.
Yeah.
The sim's a good tool, but it's not the be.
So you don't even really use it at HMO?
No, we've got 2 good sims there. They're actually not set up yet. So we tried to set them up
when they need to be set up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We tried to set them up. It was a disaster. Like, we need a youth in there. All of us there are too old. So I don't know.
Just get Tom Shaw or someone in, some young kid.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we've got a new mechanic, Brock. He's in year 12.
Yeah.
Well, he's first year out of school, so he's the youngest by a mile. So I'm sure he knows what to do with all that technology. So we'll get him on the case.
Yeah. So when you did your first season, you've only done one season.
Last year,
yeah. It's so weird because of 2020 and whatnot.
I know. Yeah.
I think it's 2 seasons, but it's actually 1. You started off your year a bit finding your feet, because I remember talking to you at Eastern Creek with my girlfriend there as well. You were struggling to find it before you got to Eastern Creek, and then you finally found that sweet spot. How did you go from Tasmania to Eastern Creek to getting that win? Like, how did that all come about, and how did the whole team chemistry happen?
So, I mean, I didn't know any better. I rocked up to Tassie. I got a podium in race 1. So I'm thinking, okay, cool, this is mad.
Yeah.
And then ran in the top 5 for the whole weekend, and then went to PI, high-speed circuit.
Yeah.
Usually suits me. But the technique of the car is totally different to what my natural style is. So I went to PI and tried to drive the thing really hard on the front, carry super big corner speed. So through like turn 1 and Lukey Heights, I was really fast.
Yeah.
But through turn 2, turn 5, Siberia, and whatever they call turn 2, I struggled because I was going into hot to corners and not coming off them. And with the front wheel drive car, it's a particular technique. So I had to really readjust, and I was just sort of a session behind where I needed to be. So PI, I was actually very unlucky because it rained in the first race. I started 9th, I got to 3rd, and then had an issue where I couldn't keep the car on the road at turn 3. Finished like 7th or something, got a penalty post-race, which is rubbish. Started 15th for race 2, then got T-boned by Jordan Cox.
Yeah.
By no fault of his own. So that wrote our race off. So that was a DNF.
Yeah.
And by that stage, I'd figured out how to drive the car. So I came from 20th to 8th in race 3, second quickest lap or something like that. So it was a bit like, shit. Like, okay, just missed that by a session. I wasn't disappointed because I knew the tools were there. Went to Bathurst, and we just lacked so much straight line handling.
The Hyundais just didn't look good there.
No, in a straight line, because our cars are brought back with balancer performance because they're so good.
Yeah.
One of the things they do, BOP. Yeah, BOP.
Yeah.
One of the things they do is reduce your power.
Yeah.
So we carry 5% less power than most cars on the grid.
Yeah, and they change that every race, don't they? The BOP.
No, the weight they do, but not the power.
Yeah.
So we went there. Our lap speed was fine, no problems. But there was a red flag in qualifying. Jordan again binned it at the chase.
He's a bit of a wildcat, isn't he?
Loves it.
I want to get him on too.
Yeah, he's a good dude. So we were last in qualifying because we didn't do a lap.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't pass anyone because the cars slowed down the straight at Bathurst. So I was doing like top 5 lap times, but in like 16th. I got up to 7th at one point, and then I got touched up at the first corner and offloaded. Yeah. Went back to 12th. I finished the last race in 9th or something like that. But again, I was like, shit, I'm fast. Like I need
that frustrating part where you know you're quick, but you're not at the front.
Exactly.
I totally understand
exactly. And then Sydney was just couldn't put a foot wrong. Like practice was a disaster. The car broke in practice 1. Practice 2 was nothing special, but I knew how to drive around Sydney.
Yeah.
I knew I was fast in the car.
You pretty much live there. So
pretty much live there. Yeah, and then qualifying I was second, which I was upset because I should have been first.
Yeah.
And then should have won all 3 races, but race 3 was a safety car battle. So
for you, what did you think? For you, was it a highlight now racing the TCR Series against ex-supercar drivers and current supercar drivers like Chaz Mostert?
Yeah, it was good to see how good those guys are.
Yep.
And see what they do. I remember in race 1, I got out in the lead. I passed Johnny Martin, who's another gun.
Yeah.
At
Who
turn
had
1.
S5000 as well.
Yeah. So I passed Johnny Martin at turn 1 and then just sort of pulled a gap. I thought, shit, okay. Yeah. So I started slowing down, just seeing what was going on. And James Moffat it was. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, I don't really want Moff behind me. He's like pretty aggressive and he's good. Like, you know, he'll have a go. So I started pushing and we just basically pushed as hard as we could for the whole race.
Yeah.
He burned his tires up in the last few laps and that was it. And I'm like, shit, I won. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And then I got out the car and it took me an hour and a half to get to my transporter to get changed. I was just being mobbed.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I was
sick.
absolute wrapped though, like especially JV being there with Penn.
Well, I didn't have a bad word said to me. It was nice. And then race 2, I had the same situation. I got the jump and I had Chaz Mostert behind me. I'm thinking, okay, let's see what happens here. And I was just driving, looking in the mirror and he wasn't really doing much. I could see third was quite close as well. I thought, okay, I might have this in the bag. With about 6 laps to go, my dash wasn't working. So I was just driving to what I know.
Yeah. You're just listening to the engine notes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I just had Bob on the radio. I just said, look, just give me the gap every lap.
Yeah.
And 1 lap with like 6 or 7 to go, it went from 2.2 to 1.6. I've gone, oh, okay. You want some? So I just went out. I went as fast as I could for 1 lap. Gap went straight back up to 2.2, and then I slowed down the next lap, 2.2, 2.4. So he started slowing down again.
Yeah.
And it was quite cool because we came in.
It was a battle like it was a chess game.
A little bit. Yeah. Like I had it under control, but it was good to see how he operated.
Yeah.
And I could tell straight away just from that, like he's not just driving, he's thinking and driving, which was really cool. And I said to Chaz after the race, oh, yeah, well done, man. Good job, whatever, all that shit.
Yeah.
And he goes...
You're a supercar driver, mate.
He said to me, he goes, race 3, don't fuck with us, will ya? And I said, don't be silly, mate. I was pushing 10 tenths. He goes, piss off, idiot. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then race 2, Caruso got the jump and won the race.
And, yeah, cool.
Anyway, it was super cool. Yeah. Awesome weekend.
Do you have any, like, have you had any bad accidents that you remember as a race car driver? I normally ask this in every podcast.
No. Honestly, the worst accident I've ever had was at the supercar round in Ford. Like, just got my right rear.
The recent one?
Yeah. That's the only crash.
That's the only one you've really had.
Yeah, I mean, I had brake failure.
Consistent, everyone.
Yeah. I can still count on 2 hands how many times I put a wheel off a circuit since I've been racing a car. Like, I don't believe in going off to find the limit. Like, that's a load of rubbish. But so probably that. I put a wheel on the yellow line in the rain and it just started to spin the car. And before it was coming back around, I got clipped. And then I had brake failure at Bathurst. So I hit poor old Benny Buggs at the chase. So that was probably the worst one. But unfortunately wasn't much I could do.
What's the vibes, even though you're not with the GRM crew, what's the vibes around the paddock with those boys? Because they all seem like on social media and TV, what I've seen, they all seem like a happy bunch, like a happy circus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy to be alive just as it is. So I don't really walk around trying to psych dudes out. Like Jason Buggs last year was definitely a lot of that. Like he loved playing games.
Did he?
He was all over it. Like
Barguana. Jason Barguana was the one out of all of them.
He was the one out of all of them. Full old school.
The old bloke.
Wouldn't look at you. Like if you spoke to him, it'd be like, yeah, good mate. Yeah, just walked off.
Really?
But it was coming from a place of competition. It wasn't like it was he was being a jerk.
Yeah.
You know, like when he won at PI, I remember waiting for him at the media circle to say, well done.
Yeah.
And to his credit, when I won at Sydney, he walked down the next morning, came out of his way and said, well done, mate, and walked the other way. So because I got along quite well with Jace before that.
Yeah.
So to see him in race mode, I was like, oh shit, like he's like trying to kill us. So yeah, but other than that, it's all pretty cruisy, you know. Like
have they kept the same regs in TCR since you first started, or are they changing it all now? Like what's happening this season? Is there any different changes? Or?
No, I think there's going to be a new tyre introduced through the year.
Yep.
Just a different compound construction, but no.
Supercars are doing similar. That's why I asked.
Yeah, always something being tweaked. I think balance of performance always shifts, but I don't know how much.
Yeah. What do you think about Fabian Coulthard coming?
Oh, yeah, I saw that today. Yeah, look, I mean, join the queue. You know?
Join the queue, mate.
Yeah, whatever.
Just another supercar boy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like, it doesn't bother me. Come one, come all. Like, they're just, honestly, at the end of the day, it's just a name on the door. It doesn't bother me. Like, if he's quicker, he'll go by. If I'm quicker, I'll go by. Yeah. It's very cool to have profile guys like himself, like Chaz, Moff, Bargs. Yeah. Very cool to have them on board because it validates us, the lesser known guys. But in terms of actually driving against them, it's just another dude on the road. Yeah.
Yeah. What is if you got hit up to race a supercar, would you do it?
Oh, of course. I mean, I'd drive anything. Yeah. I don't have reservations. I'm not locked into only driving a TCR car. Yeah. My focus is very much TCR. That's all I have intentions of doing.
Yeah. So you want to race in the World Championships in TCR?
I'd love to go and do WTCR, even if it's a round or whatever. Yeah. You know, I'd love to go over there and just see where I stack up because the competition level here is extremely high. Yeah. There's just less of us.
Yeah. So that's Australian racing in general, I think.
Totally.
Racing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like your Joeys, your Pierces as well, who you mentioned earlier, they're world class. Yeah. So they're not undefeated out here. No. So if guys are beating them and those guys are being beaten by other guys, there's a lot of good operators out here, guys and girls. Yeah. So
is Barry in close talks with keeping you and Nathan on the radar for the Hyundais overseas, or?
Yeah, he really wants to send. He wants to send someone over.
Yeah. So that'd be the goal for him to like produce.
I think so. I think so. Obviously, my connection with the brand out here as well. Like they'd love me to do something over there as well. But it would never be a full-time thing. I don't think it would be something like a Dylan O'Keefe did, go and do a round or two maybe. Yeah. But yeah, it'd be amazing to go and
do it.
Yeah.
So you're not really interested. That's interesting because a lot of people, you know, when I spoke to Joe in the podcast, he wants to go the supercars route, but you want to stay on the TCR route and keep that as a solid career and be like a, you know, an ambassador / paid by Hyundai.
I guess so. I mean, if they do the right thing, and ARG really are doing everything they can, if they do the right thing, then there's no limit on how far the category can go. Obviously, supercars is established, and regardless of what anyone says, it's not going anywhere. Yeah, like people every year are calling for the demise of supercars. I mean, it's been happening since 1990. It's not going to happen.
You can look on the Speed Cafe comments.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, oh, these are shit. Taxis are rubbish. Like, just get it. Like, it's not going anywhere. So, you know, I don't think TCR and supercar compete. Yeah.
But they own essentially race. Don't they own both now?
They do now. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with all of that. Yeah. There's too much investment out here to get rid of TCR now. It's established. So
I certainly enjoy watching it. So
yeah, it's good racing. You know, like you go out there, the cars aren't ridiculously fast that you can't follow and touch each other up, and you know, so it is good racing. It's definitely crazy when I'm out there, so I can't imagine, you know, what it's like.
What do you think? What do you think about the deal that with it going to Stan Sport now? I've literally got to buy their subscription to watch.
Yeah. Well, luckily I don't have to because I'm going to be there.
You're going to be there. Yeah, you're right.
I think Lauren might have to at home to watch me. But yeah. Look, again, if it's done well and properly, the sort of options are limitless for where it can go. I mean, everything's on Stan now, it seems. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go about it, what team they put on, what the production is, and all the rest of that. Because at the end of the day, the racing can be amazing, but if it's not good to watch, people aren't going to watch it. Like if the in-between isn't good. So, I got confidence they'll do the right thing. There's very intelligent people, far more intelligent people than us, making decisions for tens of millions of dollars. So it's in their interest to get.
Boys talking shit on the
That's
podcast.
right. It's in their interest to get it right. So I'm sure they will.
Yeah. Another question: have you got any advice for any other racers who hardly have a budget to get where you are? Like, what if you gave advice to a random kid in a midget cart right now, or whatever they're called, because the karting's changed so much.
Cadet threes.
Yeah, the cadet threes. What advice would you give a kid like to get to where he wants to be?
Just
every kid has a dream.
Do it for the right reasons. Don't do it to think you're going to make a career out of it. Do it for you. Yeah. The amount of times I competed in races and the guys who were finishing second to me are worried about, are they watching this race? Is someone going to do something because of what I do here today? It's like, dude, you're 15, 16. Like, no one cares. Yeah. Like, just enjoy yourself. Yeah. You'll go so much better. Yeah. So you kind of play your own mind game to yourself to take the fear of failure and the pressure to perform away. That's what I did. And I still don't, I don't think 5 years in the future, I got to do this, I got to do that. Honestly, if it ended tomorrow, I'd be, amazed with what I've done. Yeah. So
what would you do if you got that career taken away from you? What would you be doing?
I'd probably just still be doing my driving work. I'd drive my road cars. I'd,
be a car salesman.
Probably not. I can't lie to people. So yeah, I'd probably buy a little race car and do something. But
you do club racing essentially.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Would you work with Paul? Like, would Paul actually give you a chance to work with him or not?
Oh, I couldn't dedicate the time to work on the tools. I mean, I'm useless on the tools. I got a ring spanner stuck in my finger last time I picked one up. So there's no point me picking up a spanner. Oh. But I am lucky in that respect. Paul will always let me drive his cars. Yeah. So I could run off to Paul crying, give me a gig. I've been very lucky to do what I've done, and I'm always happy with what I've done. So anything from here on is a total bonus.
Yeah. Well, Josh, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, man. Peace and
much
love.
Appreciated. And actually, before we go, I want to give you a few things. What's your favorite race cars you've driven, and your favorite top 3 race cars you've ever driven, and top 3 racetracks in Australia that you've driven?
Race cars would be Formula 3 car, just for the sheer brutality and speed.
Yep.
Second would be the Kent car, just for how amazing it is.
Yep.
And I have to say the TCR car as well, because it's a world touring car. I mean, how cool is that? Tracks would be SMP, the Bend, that's pretty mega. And I actually really like Barbagallo in WA.
Yeah, right.
So bit of a left field one, really cool circuit. So I'd put that top 3.
Yeah, right. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Josh, and hopefully I'll get you on next time.
Yes,
after
indeed.
A year from now.
After a series win.
Actually, hang on. I've got another question. I thought I was going to end this, but I'm not going to end it now.
Go.
What's your preparation going into the first race of the season? I'll just be a typical journo here and say
mate, just bouncing rubber and lifting iron. Yeah. Getting just trying to pretend to be a race car driver and go to the gym.
Have you done any test days leading up to this?
We've done one. We've done one. So just basically a bolt check. Yeah. The cars were torn apart, put them back together. It was just a bolt check day. So nothing too spectacular. We have a media day on the Thursday before Friday practice. So that'll be, I guess, our first real hard run.
Hard crack.
Yep.
Yeah, sweet. Well, Josh, that is the actual end.
That is the end.
That's the end. I'm free to leave. I promise that's the end of the podcast.
Okay, good. No, thanks for having me, man.
I won't hold you up any longer, but man.
I probably got a parking ticket outside. I think I was in the 1 hour.
It's all right. You can bill that on me then.
I'll hold you to that.
All right, Josh. Cheers for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, dude.